niggas are whack. I'm back in the old spot, as you see. Y'all already know what we're here for. I'm not even gonna do the whole thing. Y'all already know what to do. Thumbs up the video, drop the comments down below. We are getting into episode 6 of Bad Boys. These grown men calling themselves bad boys. We'll get into that too. But thumbs up the video, drop a comment, share it if you have not already. Thank y'all for subscribing if you are new here. And if you are new here and you like what you see, like I said, thumbs up the video, drop your comments, and let's go. Okay, same one. This was another hard episode to get through because I swear towards the end, the past 2 weeks, I feel like the episode got better. Like 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes with the episode left. Like the last 5 minutes is always the best 5 minutes of like the last 5 minutes is always the best part of the episode. Everything else is a bunch of fluff. But let's get into it. So we get back from the ending of last week, which was Teeth versus Carrion, Ashy. I'm gonna start making up these names because that's they irritate me. But both of them can't fight. Chef D pushed all that weight off on Carrion, and Carrion was not doing nothing. He didn't swing. Pretty anticlimactic. They could have put this at the end of last week. But he's still asking for his money. They ended up going another round because Carrion's sitting there trying to act tough at this point. Like, come on, don't do this. Don't come for me, da-da-da. Like he was really about to do something. And he ends up slipping. It's like he tried to swing. I don't even know if he tried to swing, but he just slipped. And then just embarrassed himself to me. Everybody else is looking like, okay, like, get right. To me, I was looking like, okay, you just kind of embarrassed yourself with a dude that can't even fight. Chef D is just big. Like, he's scuffled with every person, probably the last 3 or 4 fights that we've had on the show, he's been a part of. And each one of them has not really been a fight, if you want to ask me. I ain't see him throw hands until the end of this episode, which was not even really throwing hands. But we'll get to that. But Carrion, disappointed. Like, come on, dude. Like, he's just popping all that just to do that. But they still whining about the money. Chef D ends up asking where Raz B is, and Raz is like right here. And he was asking him, like, why you snuck me on the bus? And Chef D sitting there denying it when we all know for a fact that was considered, if you asking me, that was considered I don't even know if you would call it a sneak, more so a bum rush. Because if I remember correctly, I believe Chef D was already standing up. So if I remember correctly, I can't even remember. Maybe he wasn't. But either way, they was on the bus and you already sitting there talking to him. And the conversation that y'all was having in that moment was leading, it was kind of antsy and it was kind of leading up to the point where y'all possibly could end up fighting. So at that point, you should have been expecting it. But that's pretty much what he was saying. And he's like, Chef D was sitting there denying it, which I'm like, you can't even deny that because sneak or not, that boy is half your size. The least you can do is tell that nigga to get up, square up, and then do what you got to do. Cause you at an advantage, truth be told, because y'all on a bus too. And you already standing up on him. Like, you add an advantage. Like, you can get that dude a time to get up and, if necessary, swing off whenever he's trying to swing. But here's what it is. Rasby was talking about how he's taking the high road, which he was pissing me off because it's like, what are you taking the high road for? Like, in these instances, I'm like, maybe with the whole money situation, maybe he should have paid him. But like I said, if he wasn't drinking it, I don't feel like you should have paid for it. But if you told him that you was going to chip in on getting the bottle and you didn't pay your end, then maybe you are wrong and maybe you should pay for it. Regardless, I don't think he should have been apologizing. But I wrote that I couldn't stand listening to Chef D try to talk through them teeth because I don't know if y'all catching it, but like whenever he talks, I have to literally focus really, really hard to understand what he's saying. And it's not like an accent or speech impediment. It's nothing of that sort. It's just the fact of the matter is them teeth too big in his mouth that he can't even get the words through his mouth. Like, I can't even understand what he's saying half the time. But he was just irritating me whenever he was talking. I just can't stand listening to him talk because you can tell he's just trying his best to kind of have a moment, try to be essentially the star of the show. You can just tell he's just doing what he's watched Natalie do all this shit. But the difference is Natalie's actually entertaining. regardless of what Natalie does, forcing certain accents, forcing trying to be hood, Natalie is entertaining and she always has been entertaining. That's why she's been in this industry as long as she has. That girl is very she is very, very entertaining. But what else? They ended up sending Chef D the money. That's the thing too, though. That's the funny part. They ended up sending him the money. Carrion was sitting there trying to act like he didn't owe him any money or whatever. And I'm like, if you did say that she was gonna pay for it, and if you did drink it, just pay the nigga his money. It can't be no more than $100. Like, just give him his money so he can shut up. So Chef D is sitting there talking about how he fucks with the both of them. Carrion saying, no, you don't. Just a whole bunch of stupid shit. Like this is like where I can tell like this. I don't want to say it's scripted, but I can tell that this is just like, you can tell they're doing their best just to put on a show, especially Chef D. Cause it's like, these niggas, I wouldn't be on the show at all. Somebody asked me a couple weeks ago if I would have even done the show if I wanted to, like, would I ever audition for a show? No. And this is exactly why, because these niggas are corny. Every last one of them on the show, apart from Jonathan and to a certain degree Banga, are whack to me. Like, and they all have shown in certain instances that they are whack to me. And then like walking around, and then when I say they whack, like walking around as grown men calling yourselves bad boys, that is like, that says it all to me. Like, I'm about to be 28 in 2 months. What do I look like going on a show calling myself a bad boy? And then we're gonna get onto it later on, trying to make niggas prove to you that they a bad boy. Like, whatever. But Orlando, he then ends up showing up, asking what's going on. They start asking about the shit that was going on between Orlando and Banga, and he was saying that he fucks with him, but he don't like him calling him messy. And was like, don't call me messy. Saying that neither of them was being messy, talking about him or Raz B. And I'm like, you were being messy. Like, he just called it like it was. Banga literally told you exactly what you were, and you were being messy. Like, Raz B came to you because y'all was tight before the show, and essentially y'all should be able to confide in each other. Y'all should be able to talk about certain things. I still feel like Raz B was not being messy saying what he said. That's just him talking to his friend. Like, y'all got friends and y'all talk to each other about certain things that you don't necessarily bring to a group. Because what's the point? It's just y'all having a conversation because that's your safe space. Like, with your family and stuff, there's certain things that you tell your family that you don't tell everybody else out on the street. Certain shit to stay in the house, stay in the house. In a friendship, certain things you should be able to tell your friends and know that it's going to stay within y'all's friends. But Brad or Orlando pretty much showed that he ain't really your friend, Raz B. But then Raz B was then sitting there saying, like, you don't think you started all this shit? Like, all this shit that's happening right now, you don't think you started it? Orlando sitting there trying to act like Raz B should have told Prince about it or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know Prince from a can of paint. That's pretty much what he was saying. I'm just now starting to get to know him. So why should I go up there and tell him? And it's not like I was saying it to really start anything. I was just telling you because that's what I know. And Raspberry was then saying that. And then he ended up talking about how Orlando was his, I was about to say Omarion because I put Orlando's been his boy since before this and whatever. Just like I said, like, if you type with somebody before a show, you would think that you'd be able to confide in them while you're on the show, but apparently not. But Raspberry then ended up saying that he's going to be careful about what he says to Orlando. Orlando's swearing up and down that he ain't no bitch. And then everybody's sitting there laughing. And you could tell everybody, apart from probably Banga and Jonathan, can tell who the ones that are, I can tell these newer, I ain't even gonna say these newer ones, the ones that are lesser known. I'm gonna say the ones that are most known, in my opinion, are Jonathan, Raspy, and Orlando. Those are the three that are the most known, with like Darrell up the rear. But those three essentially, and you can tell the other ones can tell that those three are probably going to be the fan favorites. And they can tell now everybody's kind of picking at Raz B. So let's go ahead and like jump with Orlando and start laughing at everything he's doing because he's trying to be funny or whatever. And I guess they can tell that that's likely going to be what's going to make fans like him because he's like kind of the comedic part. Yes, he was the comedic relief at the beginning of the season, but Orlando's been showing me that he's whack and he's corny and he is a bitch. Like, he's talking about he ain't nobody's bitch and he ain't a bitch, but you acting like a bitch. Like, the shit that you did was some bitch nigga shit. Like, sitting there just ratting your friend out, that's bitch nigga shit. But yeah, we get past that. Rasby ends up apologizing, talking about he's taking accountability. And I'm like, for what? Like, what are you apologizing for? But the next thing, they ended up getting on the bus, they start talking about beliefs. And this is another thing. Apparently, Banga, I don't know if Banga is atheist or not, doesn't believe in God, but he starts getting up talking about how he had gotten shot, showing off his incisions and stuff whenever he had surgery or whatever. And they're telling Banga, and it's like, who was it? It was Lou, JB, and Darrell. And this is me coming, I'm a Christian, grew up a Christian. I don't go to church as often as I should and want to, but I'm still very spiritual. I'm still very, I'm gonna say I'm very religious. I'm not gonna say I'm very religious because I do a lot of things that in the Bible you shouldn't do. Essentially, is basically what's being said in the Bible is what you're essentially supposed to go by. But I repent for my sins, put it that way. I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. But I repent for my sins, but I'm still a Christian. I feel like even though you do certain things, it doesn't make you any less of that. Like if you believe in God and I believe in God, I feel like you just you know it, and you don't have to go to certain lengths to prove it, in my opinion. Yes, I like to try and go to church, and I like to be able to kind of hear the word and do all the whatever. Just I'm just ranting at this point. But you get the point. I'm a Christian, but I'm the type of person that does not like to force that on other people. And I don't feel like it's a problem if other people don't believe in that. That's your own belief. That's not going to kill me at the end of the day. I believe in God. If you believe in God and you want to talk to me about it, then we'll talk about it. I'm not the type of person that goes out of my way talking about it all the time. Like whenever I'm feeling it and it's on my heart, I will speak about it. But if I see somebody out here, and it's like with College Hill, which y'all need to go watch. If you don't watch, and if you are watching it or don't watch it, period, go watch Movie Bay because Movie Bay reviews it. They're kind of having that same kind of situation, that same conversation with Amber Rose, how she's not believing in God. And it's like certain people getting a little uptight about her not believing in it. And it's just like, what does that have to do with you? And that's the same thing where I feel like with people's sexuality and stuff. It's like, they don't have nothing to do with you. If they're not hitting on you consistently after you tell them that you are not rocking that way, I don't feel like you should have an issue. And why should you make it such a focal point with you whenever you're around them? Like, why do you care so much about what somebody else believes in and what somebody else does with their life? And that's pretty much what I was getting from them, because they kept saying, like, trying to tell him, like, I believe that you should believe in God, da, 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 da. God's telling me that you should know that you're real, that he's real. And granted, like I said, I believe that God is real. I believe in God. But if he don't believe in it, that's his belief. Like, leave it alone. And that's just what I was hoping, and like sitting there thinking to myself, like, give it up. Like, leave him alone. Like, if he don't believe in it, he don't believe in it. But let me know what y'all feel about that. But the next scene, and they're pretty much talking to, Lou was talking about how he wants him to feel a part of their bad boy brotherhood. And I'm just like, here, y'all go again with this bad boy shit. But the next scene, Orlando ends up getting off the bus. He is faded, falling off the bus, drunk. Security having to walk him and hold him like he's some drunk kid. Like literally just sitting there, just like refraining him the whole time while they're walking down the street. And they walking down the street for a pretty long time to get to the club, which I found interesting how the bus just stopped and they had to get off and walk. But they ended up getting into the club. They in there in the section talking about they was turning up. They look kind of bored to me, but they ended up leaving the club, which would explain why I just said they look kind of bored. They ended up club hopping. They go to a second club. Apparently, this club is like the fist pumping type club. And Darrell was saying Prince was in his vibe. He was enjoying it. Darrell ends up saying that Orlando is too old to be basically this toss, like how fucked up he is, which is true. I feel like at a certain age, you should not be drunk falling out of clubs like that. But they ended up leaving and going home. The very next day, you got JB and Carrion in the kitchen pretty much recapping Chef D and Carrion's scuffle slash fight. And then Prince and Raz, they ended up joining in as well. And they start recapping the night, talking about how lit they was, how they didn't go to sleep till 7 a.m., yada, 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 recapping the fights with Teeth, because Carrion got into a fight with him, and Razby got into a scuffle with him. So they just recapping that same stuff like they always do, talking about how they have to have, and then because Razby was talking about how they got over it and stuff, and how they pretty much show their character because they got over that bullshit that was going on. And I'm like, okay, Cause like that's why, man, these niggas, I can't stand it. Like I'm getting more and more bored with this show already. And it sucks because like I said, which is partly my own fault for even thinking that it possibly would be better. Maybe it's gonna get better towards the end, but that super trailer hyped it up. And we all know Zeus is notorious for hyping up super trailers to make you think something great is gonna be produced on that show. But whatever. Um, so they start talking about how if anybody has an issue, this is what JB was saying. If anybody got an issue with each other, talk it out or fight it out and move on. Duh. And then Prince ends up asking if they're gonna bring somebody in because Anthony's gone, and apparently Jonathan was not coming back, which he ends up coming back. And JB ends up talking about hazing the new dude that comes in, talking about he got to prove himself. And I'm like, you whack for that. Like, at your big age, sitting here trying to tell somebody they got to prove something to you because they a replacement. Let me be the replacement. I would have came in it, boy, man. I wish somebody would try and tell me to prove something to them. Like, you shut up. Shut up. So then the next thing we get Lou, he's in bed drinking tea because he's sick. Apparently, Banger comes in dancing, checking in on him. Apparently, Banger is wearing a fit that Lou has styled, which was not really a fit. But Banger's sitting there asking him when they're gonna go back out. Lou's like, we just been out. Like after the night we had, we ain't going out no time soon. But Lou starts talking about how he's glad they fixed their issue because Banger has good energy. Duh, we could all tell. The next thing we got D, Rails, and Orlando. Darrell finally ends up telling them about the conversation that he had with Natalie, talking about a new guy might come in. And as he's doing this, Jonathan comes in. Jonathan's sitting in there excited, talking about what's been going on since he was gone or whatever, because he was in Dallas handling business that he didn't explain. But what I can assume is possibly with that truck. But Darrell then gets back to the conversation about Natalie because Chef D was pretty much asking more about it. And he's saying that Natalie's bringing in more chaos, and he's excited about it because he wants to see how JB and Prince act whenever the new dude's in there, because basically they're the only two essentially that have not been in a fight, if I'm remembering correctly, besides JB sneaking that dude. The fuck was that? Okay. Besides him sneaking that dude. But I am so, my energy is so off. I hope y'all can get through it with me, but my energy is off. This episode was too hard to get through. All right, so scene 6. Darrell, he ends up getting all the boys together because they're gonna talk about the whole new dude coming in. But they start talking about how they felt in Austin or whatever, getting to Dallas. Like, what are they gonna do when they get to Dallas? Because apparently they ain't been making the money. Prince says, which was a very valid point, which I don't like Prince, you already know that. But he made a very valid point in this instance, saying that women are easier to pay when it comes to bookings because they come in and they like shaking ass and whatever, and they kind of have, which is true though. Women, well, it depends on what you're talking about. Women have a draw that brings women to the club and brings men to the club, which is easier to pay them more money because they can bring more people in, which is what Prince was essentially saying, as opposed to bringing in some niggas like them who Jonathan probably is the only real pull besides Braz B, who is a known artist from a very popular boy band group back in the day that was like heavy on like female attention. Like women love B2K. And when I say love, they still do love B2K, like the Millennium Tour. That brings more people with that certain type of man. When it comes to a nigga like Prince, who was on Love and Hip Hop Miami, who, what else, like what other energy are you bringing to the show? Like what other energy are you bringing to the club? And that's pretty much what he was saying. So he's like, because niggas typically are the ones that are paying for stuff with the girls that are in the club, which is paying for bottles and whatever, which he's saying is true because what he's saying is true because he was basically saying like, they're the ones that's going to pay for stuff. And no nigga is gonna be in here paying to come see some niggas. And I'm like, you right. Because I damn sure wouldn't. But he's right about that. So they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do to kind of like, I guess, market themselves and brand themselves to finally be able to kind of make some money. So they start brainstorming or whatever, talking about coming up with a song. They're gonna go to the studio. Who does music besides Raz B? Mo City, JB with that whack ass music. Like, okay. But Teeth finally decides that he wants to be a chef. And it's funny because I'm like, okay, you walk around Chef D, but we ain't seen you cook nothing. But he finally saying that he's gonna start cooking stuff. And Raspy's talking about performing some songs, which essentially that would be a smart move. But Darrell ends up getting a call from Natalie as they're doing all this. And Natalie's talking about she's coming in with a surprise, and everybody's expecting a new bad boy. So she ends up coming in and she basically telling them like she put the replacements on her story because X, Y, and Z left the show, Anthony, and stating that the fans want the replacement or whatever. So she's gonna bring one in. So they sitting there talking about fuck the replacement, yada yada yada, doing the same shit that they done seen on Bad Girls Club at your grown man age, talking about doing that same stuff that they did 10 years ago. Crazy. But that's why I'm telling you, I couldn't be on the show. I'd be the one sitting in the corner looking at them like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? But Natalie ends up bringing the replacement in, and his name is Adonis. He is king of Miami, self-proclaimed. He said that he's gonna go in there and show them exactly why he should have been the OG and not a replacement. He's coming in with confidence already, which I like because they need somebody that's gonna shake it up, and hopefully he stays that way. But he immediately comes in and is like, we're gonna fix our issue talking to Chef D. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Jonathan getting excited, talking about some get active, get active. And he getting up, jumping around, and then that immediately puts a battery in Chef D's back. And he ends up getting up, leaping up. And from the clip that they showed towards the end of the episode, Adonis was swinging. Don't know much of what was landing. Chef D, that's the first time I've seen him at least try to like throw a hand. Wasn't much of nothing. I couldn't really tell from the clips from for the next week too either. But they get another round in. Mo City JB's whack. He's whack to me now. Like whack. I'm starting to see it even more. He ends up what looks to be sneaking the new dude, which I don't know if that's the first round or the second round, because I could have sworn he got into a round with him in the super trailer. I don't know. We'll have to see. But essentially that looks like he was sneaking him. So we'll see in terms of that, if that is a full sneak. But whack, that looks very whack to me. Banga and Lou end up arguing again. And then the dudes, they in there sitting up there in the room plotting on the new dude, and then Lou ends up being sick. So that's what we got to look forward to next week. We are on episode 6. Hopefully they don't stretch this to 14. Thumbs up the video, drop the comments down below. I know it was hard to get through because it was hard for me to watch it. Let me know what y'all thought about the episode. Subscribe if you have not already, especially if you like what you see. And yeah, follow me on my socials, all that. And I will see y'all next week. Peace.